using that one-legged fadeaway. The one Dirk uses quite a bit. Kind of become comfortable with that.
What is going on, YouTube and college basketball fans everywhere? Chris Pearson here again with you for the first video today of what will be two on this channel today. This is a jam-packed Tuesday that I've packed in here. It is Tuesday, the 25th of February. Pretty soon, that calendar is going to change again. It means we are getting so close. We're getting very close now to March and the madness actually beginning. It is getting really down to that crunch time now where bubble teams have to separate themselves from others and really have to start putting themselves for the conference tournaments begin very, very soon. So this is the fourth video, fourth bracket projection that I just now got done putting together here for tracking the madness. Later today, as I just put on the channel, there'll be another video up, and that will be the next video in our new web series with the Jaguars quarterback quest, where we try to find the Jaguars' next quarterback. We're breaking down 4 more quarterbacks today. Some big names, Taj Boyd of Clemson, Connor Shaw of South Carolina, David Fales of San Jose State, and Brett Smith of Wyoming. So look forward to that. But for now, we're going to be focusing here on the latest bracket projection that I have. I want to share my bubble board with you guys, where certain teams are at, where they're stacking up. Again, reasons why they're in, why they're out, different reasons. So let's go ahead and just dive right into it. Basically, let me start off with the bubble board, and let me kind of share what we're looking at right now. So here we go. So let me share this with you guys. Basically, right now, what I have now what I've done is, now that we're getting really into the nitty-gritty of it, I've kind of narrowed it down to the last 4 teams that are safe. Some of these some bracketologists call these like the last 4 buys, like the 4 teams that are just above the bubble line. Then I have my last 4 in, my first 4 out, and my next 4 out. And then I have a lot of teams, of course, down below that are kind of in the hunt within that, RPI range, but they're on the list, but there's still a lot of work to do to really be in the discussion. So right now, my last 4 teams that are safe, that are currently just kind of on that 11, 10, 11, 12 line, that are in but not for safe for sure, that would be teams like Minnesota, Baylor, Xavier, and there's one more. Who's the other one? Where did I see them? Minnesota, Baylor, Xavier, and well, actually, no. Those are 3 of the 4. Richmond's already in, aren't they? Yeah. I had Richmond on that list, but I already have Richmond as one of my last 4 in, so I can't use them. Let's see. Because a lot of these teams I've already put as locks, and I don't want to, change up what I already have. Because I have Minnesota on my last 4 in list. If I had to pick one, I guess by default it'd probably be Cal, maybe even BYU. No, it'd probably be BYU, but BYU is pretty safe in my opinion. So I would say right now the last 4 safe then are BYU, Baylor, Missouri, and Xavier. I would say those 4 I'm pretty confident in right now as being safely in the field, but certainly that can change depending on their outcomes and their status moving forward. Now, my last 4 teams that are in the field, and I know these are right for sure, are Minnesota, whose status definitely changed of late after some losses last week. Oregon, Oklahoma State, looking good now with Marcus Smart back in the lineup after they were 0-3 without him, and the Richmond Spiders. A lot of people that I've seen have St. John's over Richmond, and I'm not sure exactly why, considering, A, St. John's RPI is lower than Richmond's. They do have a better strength of schedule. B, they have less quality wins than the Spiders, 2, in terms of the top 100. Yes, they are 8-2 in their last 10 games, but Richmond's 7-3, so that's nothing to sneeze at either. And 4, Richmond is a much better road team than St. John's. So I understand why there's no love here for the Richmond Spiders. and putting a team like St. John's in. And not that it's a major factor, but to me it kind of is. Richmond is 8-4 in a very, very strong A10. St. John's is 8-7 in a not as loaded Big East. So even a better conference record. There's so many reasons why, to me, Richmond deserves to be higher on the bubble line than St. John's does. So I don't understand why all the love for St. John's, especially that guy, Joe Lenardi. You know how I feel about him. And we always tend to mostly disagree on things. If you follow my Twitter, we even found something actually to agree on when it comes to his Big 12 teams. I actually agree with him, which is shocking. I have all 7 of those teams that he has in the field. I have Oklahoma State as my last 4 in. So does he. That was shocking to me. And normally I don't agree with Joe Lenardi very much, but I always have to find something that I disagree with because that's just me and him. That and he has Oregon out. What? Are you why? Oregon's numbers are high. They're in the top 40. They have 7 top 100 wins. They're in a very strong Pac-12. Why is Oregon out in this field? And St. John's is in over Richmond. Make no sense. At least not to me. St. John's. Jeez. Who have they beaten? Maybe Creighton one time. They have one quality win. They're 1-6 against the top 50. Who'd that win come against? Who did St. John's? Who did St. John's beat? Creighton. Okay, I admit that's a good win, but who their bad losses to? They lost to Penn State, ouch, and DePaul, a bigger ouch. DePaul. So you're telling me that Joe Lenardi has a team in the field that lost to DePaul? Wow. Over the likes of Oregon and Richmond. That's, I don't know. There are no words. There are no words for that. My first 4 out, Dayton, who actually Lenardi agrees with me on that one. Dayton on the first 4 out. Providence, St. John's, who should be out, not in, and Tennessee, who has fallen off in recent weeks. And my next 4 out are NC State, Nebraska. Now, Nebraska is certainly a team on the rise. They have 3 top 50 wins, a strong strength of schedule, 8-2 in their last 10 games. The job that Tim Miles has done taking over that Nebraska program has been very, very impressive. And not that I can't say much about my Purdue Boilermakers, but they were destroyed by Nebraska on Sunday, as they should have been, because A, Purdue's terrible, and B, Nebraska's playing so well. But definitely doing very well late. They are a team on the rise. Clemson is on my next 4 out, and Arkansas as well. So that's the way that shapes up. Now, there's a lot of teams below them that are in the hunt, in the discussion. A team like Florida State, LSU, Southern Miss out of the Conference USA, who's trailing right now in the league behind Middle Tennessee, Boise State, Georgetown, certainly in the discussion, St. Mary's out of the West Coast, Ohio out of the MAC, Indiana State out of the Missouri Valley, Marquette barely on the list. These last 3 teams kind of barely on the list. These are long shots like Marquette, San Francisco out of the West Coast, and Washington out of the Pac-12. Those 3 are kind of the longer shots. That's why they're at the bottom of the board. But their numbers are still good enough that right now they're still barely on the board, but not by much. So that's where the bubble board shapes up right now. That's where I stack up in terms of those teams. Okay, so let's go ahead now and share with you guys the projection. Pull the camera up right here. There we go. Move it over here so I can see everything. There we go. Okay, so let's share with you guys my recent bracket projection that is up. This is based, of course, as the end results of the games from yesterday. I've updated our RPI. Now, I did not update the RPIs yet and the stats. I did that yesterday, so I didn't get an update on that yet. But I did update my bubble board, everything with that, so that's fresh and up to date. So, and the records are up to date, everything like that. So we'll start off, of course, with the top line real quick to share the #1 seeds. These really haven't changed a whole lot, though. Arizona now I have as the overall #1. It might have been Syracuse in the last projection, or maybe even Florida. But Arizona now is still the, actually I think they're still the overall ones. They're still the overall one. Florida is now the #2, though. Syracuse, of course, those 2 losses this week, losing to Boston College. They're obviously not a great loss. Losing to Duke. Now they've dropped a little bit. Florida's now the number 2. Wichita State now is on the 1 line. They're the 3rd number 1. Perfect undefeated, 29-0. They're going to go for 30-0 tonight against Bradley. That's a televised game, by the way. And then Syracuse is the 4th number 1. So I would have them right now West facing East and South facing Midwest is how I would have them right now. So the West region with Arizona as the overall number 1, they are playing actually very well. Even though they've lost Brandon Ashley for the season with that injury that he suffered, they are playing very well even in his absence. They've recovered well from that. They would open up against the winner of one of the opening round games, either VMI out of the Big South or Southern out of the SWAC. I mean, these two now, I mean, Southern has led the SWAC mostly all season long. The Jaguars playing very well of late. It'd be a shocker if anyone else came out of the SWAC besides Southern. Now, the Big South has been, as I've said on here, has been wide open all season. But, it could be Coastal Carolina, it could be Radford, it could be VMI. VMI at least puts up a lot of points. They have very good shooters and scorers. I mean, I watch their point totals, and they go up on every game I've seen. So I think certainly that conference is a little more wide open than the SWAC, I think. But it's no surprise usually that the representatives from the Big South and the SWAC, whoever they are, usually end up in Dayton in the opening round week. My 8-9 would be I have Kansas State out of the Big 12 taking on Gonzaga out of the West Coast Conference. Kansas State, you look at their profile, and I mean, yes, they do have some very bad losses on there, but they have like 6 top 50 wins. I can't see them missing the tournament, even if they falter down the stretch. I think Kansas State is still going to be safe on a lot of levels. In Gonzaga's starting to really falter a bit of late. They lost to BYU, but that's not a bad loss by any stretch because BYU now is starting to climb in the ladder. I have them as a safe team, as I mentioned, right now in the field. But then they did lose to San Diego, which that's not a great win by any stretch. It's not a good loss. It's a very bad loss because they're outside the top 100. So, but I think even if Gonzaga, let's say this, even if Gonzaga does not win the West Coast Conference tournament, I think they could still get in as an at-large. So that'll be bad for bubble teams. So bubble teams are going to be rooting for Gonzaga to win the West Coast because that would steal a bit away from a potential bubble team. By 5-12, Ohio State out of the Big Ten taking on Green Bay out of the Horizon League. 2 very good offensive scoring teams would be in that matchup. Ohio State, some people have said they're not a lock yet. I've had them as a lock for a long time. I think their profile is too solid for them to miss the tournament at this point. Plus, the Big Ten is the best conference in terms of RPI, I think. Maybe behind the Pac-12 or the ACC, I'm not sure. But I think they're very solid, and I think they'll be okay. And Green Bay has dominated the Horizon League from the outset. They've already clinched, I think, the regular season title in the Horizon League. So, again, it'd be a shock if anyone other than Green Bay won the Horizon League tournament. But in order to be sure they get a bid, they should probably do their business and win the Horizon tournament. 4-13, San Diego State out of the Mountain West taking on Stephen F. Austin out of the Southland Conference. Stephen F. Austin is still perfect in the Southland. They have just run through that conference like a knife through butter. I mean, they are just very solid offensively. You want to talk about a scary 13 seed, I think you look no further than the Lumberjacks. They have tournament experience. They made it here last year. Other potential scary 13 seeds that I'll talk about, like Middle Tennessee, like Belmont, are in that same vein. Maybe even a Toledo could be in that juncture. I think certainly there's some potential scare in that team if they get the right matchup. And San Diego State is not unbeatable. They just lost to New Mexico this past week, so certainly there could be intrigue there for a potential upset. But don't fall asleep on Stephen F. Austin. Very talented team out of the Southland Conference. The 6-11, boy, this would be a fun one, wouldn't it? Kind of like in the football sense of things. Texas against BYU. If you do remember in football, BYU ran roughshod over Texas earlier, and that really led to a lot of rumors about Mac Brown's status of the Longhorns. So this would be on the basketball floor, but again, the job that these two teams have done this year, Texas, there's a lot of uncertainty about them this year, but the job Rick Barnes has done with them has been very impressive. And BYU has certainly come on strong of late. Now, BYU, not exactly safe by any means. Right now, they are my first team safely in the field. One of those first 4 buys right now. So certainly, you know, a lot to dissect with them. They do have a lot of bad losses on the resume that weighs them down a bit, but they're playing very well of late. They have a win over Gonzaga. I think they've beaten St. Mary's once, a fellow bubble team. So they're pretty solid. So I think for now BYU is okay, but certainly I think they need to win out some more, maybe make a deep run the West Coast tournament to have a really good chance of being solidly in the field. 314, Michigan out of the Big Ten, getting ever so closer to potentially winning another Big Ten regular season title. I have them taking on New Mexico State out of the WAC. New Mexico State took the conference lead this week over Utah Valley. Utah Valley suffered a very bad loss at the hands of UMKC in the West Coast Conference. So they're now out, in New Mexico State, which looks like the better team in the WAC as well. They are now in as the representative out of the WAC. They also have tournament experience as well, so it might be even better for them to win. Utah Valley would be definitely a first-time participant if they won, so that would be that matchup there. 7-10, good one. Memphis out of the American taking on Stanford out of the Pac-12. Memphis, obviously, I've always been impressed with the job that Josh Passner does with the Tigers. Very entertaining, fun team to watch whenever they take the floor. Beat Gonzaga earlier this year, so that was a great win for their profile. And Stanford, the Pac-12 is going to get a lot of teams in the field. They might even get up to 7 in the field, along with the Big 12. So, and right now that's what I have them for. So Stanford looking very solid as well, and I think that'd be a very entertaining matchup as well. And the 215, Creighton out of the Big East. I mean, Dermott now 10th on the all-time point scoring list. Are you kidding me? They don't, you know, there's a reason they call him Dougie McBuckets right there, because he just leads that team, doing great things in the Big East now. I have them taking on UCSB, or Cal Santa Barbara, who now is the new leader of the Big West. It's been rotating between them and UC Irvine of late, but Irvine lost last week, so the Gauchos now have that spot leading the Big West, their current record at 18-7. Moving on to the East region, these the semifinals we played in New York. The West region, by the way, would be in Anaheim in the semifinals, if you guys didn't know that already. Top seed, obviously, Syracuse. Now, again, they have struggled of late. Again, the loss to Boston College didn't exactly help matters to them. And I tell you what, I got to say on here, I watched the Syracuse-Duke game. I will say this. Again, if you follow me on Twitter, @FierceNader, I usually tend to live tweet during the games. And I was watching the Syracuse-Duke game, and I tell you what. Now, I will say this. Was the Jim Boeheim's reaction to the block charge call wrong? Yes, it was wrong. He should not have reacted that way, and that ultimately cost him the game. But still, you know, I hate seeing games end like that. I hate seeing games be decided by a call like that, especially when it's at Duke, the cockiest team in college basketball, the cockiest team in America. I mean, it's every time. You know, every time I watch a Duke game, one instance, there's a player shaking his head after a shot, wagging their finger in your face, talking trash in your face. It's ridiculous. It really makes me sick. It's why I have a strong distaste for Duke, and I love to see him lose. I cheered for Joey North Carolina beat them a couple weeks ago. I loved it. As I mentioned on the show, I really don't like Duke, never have, so because of that reason. So that was tough to watch. But Syracuse did rebound from that. They barely escaped Maryland, in which Maryland was another team that was on the bubble board that needed a win. But now Maryland is 0-9 against the top 50. I'm not going to keep a team on the bubble board that's 0-9 against the top 50. Sorry, you need big wins to be on the bubble board. So, bye-bye, Maryland. So Syracuse is the one in the East. I have them playing NC Central, North Carolina Central, out of the MEAC, 21-5. They've pretty much run the table in that conference from start to finish. Except for maybe an earlier time when I think Morgan State or Morehead State or someone like that was leading the conference. But again, it'd be a shock if NC Central did not come out of that conference. They've won 13 straight games. Very impressive run for that team. 8-9, another good one. Arizona State out of the Pac-12 taking on SMU out of the American. I think SMU now has locked up a tournament berth for sure. I already had them as a lock before, but that win over Connecticut last week, their second time this season, I think that all but locked it up for the Mustangs and Larry Brown. You want to talk about just a amazing turnaround job that Larry Brown has done with the SMU program. He's been around the block. He's a veteran coach. He knows 13 different places of coaching. You know, he knows how to coach. He's a great coach. And the job that he's done with the SMU program, much applause to Larry Brown for getting this team back in the NCAA tournament. And Arizona State, again, the Pac-12, like I've said, has been so good this year. They had some great wins on their resume. So I think they're going to be safely in as well. 5-12, and again, I talk about these potential scary upsets, and this could be one of them. Kentucky out of the SEC taking on Harvard from the Ivy League. Do remember a couple years ago when Kentucky wasn't exactly as dominant as they were, and they lost to a 12 seed, I think it was Cornell, who, by the way, was out of the Ivy League. That would be a scary matchup. Excuse me. That'd be a scary matchup, but I think, you know, it's Kentucky, and I think Kentucky's gotten a lot, you know. Calipari always knows how to recruit his recruiting classes. He knows how to find good talent, and even though Harvard is pretty much the class of the Ivy League, again, it'd be a shock if anyone besides Harvard won the Ivy League. Maybe you can make a case for Yale, who beat Harvard earlier this year, but I would be shocked if it was anyone but Harvard to win that regular season title. Remember, the Ivy League is the only league without a conference tournament, so the regular season champ comes out of the Ivy League. So I think it'd be a shock, but you never know when it comes to tournament time. 4-13, this would be a probably low-scoring, drag-it-out game because these teams don't score a whole lot of points. St. Louis out of the A-10 taking on North Dakota State out of the Summit League. Again, you know, St. Louis, the Billikens have been very impressive again this year, 25-2. They grind you. They are a very defensive-minded team. They're like the Pacers or the Seahawks. You know, they're very defensive-minded teams. Don't tend to score a whole lot of points to win games. But their defense, you know, keeps their teams so low that they are just able to do enough to win. So, but that was exposed last year in the tournament because they lost to Oregon, the 12 seed, who was very offensive-minded, Pac-12, and they just dominated them from start to finish. So that's the concern with the Billikens about going up against these offensive-minded teams. Well, if they played North Dakota State, it really wouldn't be that big an issue because the Bison are kind of the same way. In that Summit League, it's a grinding league. It's a very, you know, slow-paced league. You don't see a lot of high-scoring games in the Summit League. So that would be a better matchup for them if that were the case. So, but that's the concern if you want to pick the Billikens because, you know, you don't want to take them too far unless they could find a way to slow down the offensive juggernauts in the tournament. 6-11. Two teams on the rise. North Carolina out of the ACC taking on St. Joe's out of the A-10. North Carolina, again, I've said on here, they're a lock now. They've definitely been one of the more resurgent teams. I think now they've won 8 straight games now. Certainly been impressive of late. They followed up that Duke win with the blowout of Wake Forest, so like 102-75 or something like that. So they're definitely showing that they're legit. You know, James Michael McAdoo, Marcus Page, these guys, these pure shooters that know how to shoot the ball so well, they're legit, at least to me. So I like them. St. Joe's has certainly been resurgent of late. If we take a look at St. Joe's profile, I have them as safe right now. I probably have them above that last 4 safe line, like on the next one up. But if you look at St. Joe's resume, 9-3 in the A-10. They're second in the A-10, so that's very, very strong. They're 19-7 overall, an RPI of 38, strength of schedule of 67. That's, you know, that's good but not great. Now they do have 2 top 50 wins, but they are against the A-10, UMass and VCU, but both very good wins. Not going to discourage those at all. They're 5-6 against the top 100. They are hot. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games, so that really helps their cause. They're also a very good road team. St. Joe's is 7-3 in road games this year, so very good on the road. And they only have 1 bad loss on the profile, and that was to Temple. So really there's not a lot to dislike about St. Joe's. So that's why they're in the safe position they're in right now. So I really like the Hawks, and they have a big game tonight against Dayton. kind of a bubble game there. So I think it means more, though, for Dayton, who I was my first 4 out, than it is for St. Joe's, who I have as safe. So certainly means more there. But if St. Joe's can win that game, it only further strengthens their case as to why they should be an NCAA tournament team. 3-14, Michigan State out of the Big Ten taking on Delaware out of the Colonial Athletic Association. Michigan State, if only Michigan State were fully healthy, they could have been so much better this year, but there's just been so many question marks with their guys. Brandon Dawson is still out after injuring himself at his stupidity moment, breaking his hand while slamming it on a desk. So he's still out. Adrian Payne is slowly coming back, but he's not the same player. Gary Harris has had issues. Keith Appling. So there's just been a lot of question marks with Michigan State. But I read online, if anyone can get him out of that situation, we've heard the phrase before, do you really want to bet against Tom Izzo in March? Usually not, but with the situation that he's been in, I think it's been a little bit tougher for him to handle that. On the other side of the coin, the Colonial, again, it's mostly been Delaware's this whole season. They've clearly been one of the best teams out there, but don't fall asleep on Towson, because Towson actually beat Delaware earlier this year, and they might actually make a case to maybe knock them off come the Colonial tournament. So Delaware's not exactly a shoo-in to win the league tournament. So there's a couple teams that could sneak in and make some noise there. But right now, Delaware is the team to beat in the Colonial. 7-10, UConn out of the American taking on Cal out of the Pac-12. Again, two very solid teams, very solid resumes for now. They're both safe. I think they're both locks to get in. Maybe Cal is barely a lock right now because their numbers are a little low, but I think still they're going to be okay. UConn, I mean, you watch UConn play. You watch Shabazz Napier. He is just so impressive and fun to watch. He's all-around talent. We're interested to see what kind of run UConn makes in the conference tournament in the American, because it's going to be a joy just to watch him perform. And Cal, let's delve into Cal's resume a little bit, because a lot of people say, well, Cal's a bubble team, but some people say Cal's a lock. Well, I have Cal as a lock. Again, you're playing in a strong conference in the Pac-12. You've beaten 3 very top-heavy teams in the Pac-12, including the #1 overall seed Arizona. So you look at Cal, they're 9-5 in the Pac-12, very solid. 18-9 overall record, again, very solid there. Now, the numbers are a little low. They do have the lowest RPI of the 7 teams that are in the field from the Pac-12. Cal at 52 RPI. That's really usually merited for a bubble team, and so is their SOS. Lowest of the 7 teams at 50. But here's where they separate themselves from those numbers. 3-6 against the top 50. They've beaten Stanford, solidly in the field, Oregon, a bubble team, but for now in the field, and Arizona, the overall #1 seed. That win, I think, really is what separates Cal from a lot of other teams on the lock bubble line. 6-7 against the top 100. That's decent. That's about 500. Now, their last 10 record could really use some work. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. They really maybe need to go on a bit of a run to get those numbers up, and hopefully they will. But they are a good road team. 5-4 on the road. Always good to have a winning road record. Now, they do have a couple bad losses. Lost to USC, but they avenged that loss this past week when they beat USC soundly at home. So that was huge for them. They lost to Oregon State. Oregon State is barely below the RPI top 100. So they're like 101. So really, Oregon State, yes, while technically it does fall in the bad loss category, it's not an extremely bad loss. So that's why Cal right now, I have Cal safely in the field. I don't think, right now they're really that much in danger of missing the field unless they really start to fall off the rails. So for now, I think Cal is okay, but certainly, they're kind of in St. Joe's territory in a way. They're safe, but they're not fully safe. A couple more wins, I think, for Cal, and I think they'll be good. And then the 2-15, Kansas. Big applause to Rock Chalk, to the Kansas Jayhawks. Yesterday, they beat Oklahoma. They claimed a share of their 10th straight Big 12 title. I mean, that is ridiculous. You want to talk about a dynasty? Look no further. They have a ring on all 10 fingers. I mean, that is just absolutely outstanding. Holly Rowe in the opener last night was showing the 9 rings, and now they get the 10th for the last one. So good job, Jayhawks. Great accomplishment. I mean, what can you say? Kansas is always impressive. The talent. Joel Embiid is back. Obviously Andrew Wiggins, the talent that is there. Very impressive Kansas team. I would have them opening right now against the 15 seed Boston University. The Terriers currently leading the Patriot League. But again, another team to watch in the Patriot League. Don't fall asleep on American, who has been kind of battling up and down with the Terriers for first place in the Patriot League this year. The South region, these games, the semifinals, will be played in Memphis at the FedEx Forum. Top seed, Florida Gators, have looked very impressive. They're now the #1 team in the country now. Now that Syracuse is no longer #1, Florida now is up there at #1. And they're going to get to prove that ranking tonight. They play Vanderbilt at Vandy tonight on ESPN, I think. So either ESPN or ESPN2. So check your local listings. But Florida have them opening up against Davidson. What a shocker. Davidson's leading the Southern Conference again. Usually it's them that come out of the SoCon. Even when they're bad in the non-conference schedule, Davidson just seems to run the table mostly in the SoCon Conference. Now, Chattanooga has been battling with them for first a lot this year, but now late in the recent weeks, there's been no sign of Chattanooga. Davidson has completely run away with it. They're winning games constantly. So right now it looks like Davidson is the favorite to come out of the SoCon Conference, but don't count out the Mocs of Chattanooga as well. 8-9. Ooh, this would be another entertaining one. I love these 8-9 matchups. VCU, 20-7 out of the A-10, that Havoc defense, going up against Colorado out of the Pac-12. A lot of people have been dissecting Colorado of late. You know, how much is the committee going to judge the team with Spencer Dinwiddie out? You know, obviously, earlier in the year, he tore his ACL. He was done for the year. He was a big reason why Colorado was such a good team. Well, Colorado has actually done fairly well still, even with Dinwiddie out. So they've played fairly well in his absence. So I think Colorado's going to be okay. I think they're going to be in the field, but certainly I don't think they're going to go very deep in the tourney because of that fact. And you draw a team like VCU from the outset, good luck. I mean, that Havoc defense, I've always had fun watching it. I love watching their Final Four run a couple years ago, even though they beat Purdue on the way to do it. I was very impressed by VCU. I've always been impressed by Shaka Smart and his team. So I think that'd be an entertaining 8-9 matchup from the outset. The 5-12, I'd have Louisville, the 5 seed out of the American, taking on the winner of one of my opening round games in Dayton, either Minnesota or Richmond. The Gophers and the Spiders there going at it in that game. Tonight's game for Minnesota, by the way, is huge. They play home tonight against Iowa. That's a big game for the Gophers. I think if Minnesota wins that game, I think they're right now they're my last 4 in, but I think that definitely would either keep them on that line or maybe even put them back in safe territory. That would be a huge resume building win for the Gophers. It's a huge game for them tonight. Richmond, I've said, I've made my case on here, why I like Richmond, because they're a lot better than some other teams like St. John's. St. John's, I greatly choose now when I say St. John's, because I really don't like St. John's a lot. Who's in your bracket? Oh, St. John's. What? St. John's? What are they? And where's Richmond at? So, yeah, I've made my rant on St. John's. Now people are going to replay that. Now, I always make moments, don't I? I always make moments on this channel for funny things like that. It's that St. John's rant guy. He's the one ranting about St. John's, gritting his teeth every time. St. John's, he's saying it like that. Yes, I am St. John's rant guy. That's me. Deal with it. I'm St. John's rant guy. I don't want your team. I don't like your team in the tournament right now. You're not in. At least not to me, you're not in. Richmond is in. You're not in. You got to prove yourself. Want to prove yourself? Beat Xavier tonight. Beat Xavier. Then maybe we can talk, St. John's. Then maybe we can talk about you getting in. Beat Xavier first. I might even watch that game. I don't know. There's a lot to watch. There's a lot of games to watch tonight at 7 o'clock. There's a lot. Look at the slate of games tonight that's at 7 o'clock. Listen to this. These are all 7 o'clock games. #1, Florida at Vandy, ESPN. Virginia Tech at Duke, ESPNU. #20, Iowa at Minnesota on BTN. Kansas State at Texas Tech on ESPN2. Xavier at St. John's at 7 on Fox Sports 1. I might watch that game. Dayton at St. Joe's on CBS Sports Network. Those are all 7 o'clock games. You don't think any of those aren't big? I mean, I was thinking of watching maybe Iowa, Minnesota, but I might watch Xavier St. John's. I'm gonna have to see what all the fuss is about St. John's and why people have this lovey-dovey relation with them. Oh, St. John's, I love you. Ooh, I love that you're in the field. I put you in the field. I love St. John. You know, it's, you know, like what? Or maybe we bring back the mob guy for this. Those St. John's, you're awesome. All these people think you're awesome that you're in the field. St. John's, I think you're great, man. You're great, St. John's. You need to be in the tournament field. I think you're great. I think you're awesome, St. John's. Man, it don't care what those people say, what Chris says. Man, no matter that Savior game tonight, it don't matter, man. You're awesome, St. John's. You're awesome, baby. You're like Dick Vitale, man. You know Dickie V, awesome, baby. That's what you are, St. John's. Go out and prove everybody wrong that you're in the tournament. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to have to watch tonight now. Because all these people about, no love for the Richmond Spiders. Spiders, I'm on your bandwagon. Richmond, yes. St. John's? No, not right now. Beat Xavier first. Then we'll talk. Then we'll set up the meeting. Go to meeting. Then we'll set up the meeting. I'll push meeting button on the remote. Oh, St. John's beat Xavier? Oh, meeting. Then we'll have the meeting. Hi, St. John's. Then we'll have the meeting. All right, moving right along after all that excitement. 4-13 Virginia out of the ACC, looking very strong, leading the ACC right now. I have them taking on Middle Tennessee, currently leading Conference USA. And again, if you remember my rant from last year, it was regarding Middle Tennessee, eliminating the mistake. That was the whole Twitter thing I unleashed last year. When Middle Tennessee made the field over some other teams that I thought deserved better to get in, I went nuts. I honestly went nuts. I went on a full-lace tirade against Middle Tennessee, and I said this team should not be in the field. They have nothing on their resume. Their profile is bunk. It's absolutely nothing. They should not be in. They need to lose the first game by a lot. I want them to lose. I was rooting against them, and they lost. So the mistake was eliminated. But if they win Conference USA this year, we'll have to deal with Middle Tennessee. So as long as they win the tournament, they'll be okay. If they don't win, don't deserve to be in. 6-11, this will be a fun one. Iowa out of the Big Ten. Again, big game for Iowa tonight, going to Minnesota. I have them taking on Missouri out of the SEC, currently on my last 4 safe list. And Missouri also is a big game tonight. Missouri's got to go to Georgia, where they lost to earlier in the year. A bad loss on their resume. If Missouri gets swept by Georgia, I might even have to drop them down to the last 4 in line. I mean, that would not be a pretty situation on the Tigers' resume. 3-14, Iowa State out of the Big 12. Cyclones looking good this year under Coach Hoiberg, taking on Mercer out of the Atlantic Sun. The Bears have mostly led the way in the Atlantic Sun, although, again, another team that could possibly challenge Mercer in that conference tournament. Don't sleep on the guys from Dunk City, Florida Gulf Coast. They're actually tied for first with Mercer in the A-Sun. And I think they beat them maybe even earlier in the year, or at least gave them a good game. So don't fall asleep on the Eagles. We haven't seen the last of Florida Gulf Coast after that Sweet 16 run last year. Weren't they fun to watch? Oh, they were so fun to watch last year, running to the tournament. Oh, I was cheering hard for Florida Gulf Coast. I wanted them to beat Florida. It would have been funny. That was awesome. I love these Cinderella stories. I love it. Give me goosebumps. I love it. Love Cinderellas. Give me Butler, give me VCU, give me George Mason, Wichita State. I love it. 7-10, New Mexico out of the Mountain West. Big ups to New Mexico for that big win over San Diego State a couple weeks ago, or actually just last week. They're looking better. I have them going up against Baylor out of the Big 12. Baylor is also one of those teams right now. It's one of my last 4 safe, but they're certainly starting to climb the ladder. Baylor has now won 4 straight games. They're looking very strong. And I think for now, they're looking more safe by the day with every game they win. So as long as Baylor keeps winning games, I think the Bears are going to be okay in the long run. And excuse me. And my 215, Villanova out of the Big East, 24-3. As always, the Wildcats looking very solid. Taking on Georgia State out of the Sun Belt. Now, Georgia State, again, they've pretty much run the table in the Sun Belt most of the year this year, but they do have a couple of questionable losses, battle games. They haven't played so well in. I don't know who can challenge Georgia State in the Sun Belt right now, but in terms of conference record. But certainly the Sun Belt, I think, is more wide open than it ever could have been because it's just been a lot of close, hard-fought, tight games in that conference. So keep an eye on the Sun Belt Conference tournament just in case. It might not be a given that Georgia State is going to be there come tournament time. And finally, the Midwest region. Of course, the semifinals will be played at Lucas Oil in Indianapolis. Top seed, your Wheat Shockers, Wichita State, 29-0, out of the Mo Valley, going for 30-0 tonight. I have them playing the winner of the opening round game in Dayton between Robert Morris, who's leading the Northeast Conference, and Weber State out of the Big Sky. These two teams, conferences had a lot of fluctuation as well this year, but now it looks like these two are really the cream of the crop when it comes to these conferences. So, but again, the Northeast, the Big Sky usually tend to be the weaker conferences. They usually end up in the opening round game in Dayton, so that's where they would meet if it came to that. 8-9, another good game. Pitt out of the ACC taking on George Washington out of the A10. Right now, both teams with identical records of 20-7. Pitt's resume is not exactly pretty by any stretch. I think they only have like one top 50 win, but they do have a non-conference win. I think over I think it was UCLA. So let me take a look just to double check that. Stanford. Pitt beat Stanford. Not UCLA. Right conference, wrong team. So Pitt beat Stanford. Those are only. They don't have any bad losses, so that's a good thing for Pitt. But certainly, I think right now they're okay, but certainly not fully locked in by any stretch yet. They're very close, I would say, but maybe a little more work to do with a few quality wins. And then G-Dub out of the A10, I think they're going to be very good as well. The A10 a very strong conference. They've got some good wins on their schedule, so it's nice to see them have a resurgence and come back as well. 5-12, and this could potentially also be a very scary one if it comes to this. UCLA out of the Pac-12 going up against Toledo out of the MAC. Toledo, I think, is another one of those scary teams that could potentially be a dark horse upset pick for a lot of people because Toledo's offense, very high scoring. Their numbers are very strong. They've played a good schedule this year, and they're known for their offense. So if they get the right matchup, they could surprise a lot of teams potentially. And UCLA is very under the radar. They really, they're good, but they're not. I don't think talked about a lot as much as like Arizona or other teams above them. So I think that could be a scare matchup as well for any team having to play either. So. Keep an eye on those two teams going forward. 4-13, I mentioned Belmont. They're my 13 in this region out of the Ohio Valley, going up against Cincinnati, though, out of the American. Cincinnati, the job that Mick Cronin has done there. Sean Kilpatrick guides that team's offense. He's been a star this year for the Bearcats. But, again, Belmont is very streaky. When Belmont shooters are on it, they usually tend to really make it tough for teams. So it just depends on how good Belmont is on that day. But they are certainly always a popular upset pick because of the fact that they've done it before, and B, they have their shooters. So just keep an eye on Belmont as well. 6-11, I have UMass out of the A10 taking on the winner of the other opening round game in Dayton. This is my other last 4 in game. Either Oregon or Oklahoma State. Again, both teams, numbers-wise and stats-wise, looking very solid, but not safe yet. They still need a little bit of work to do to make sure they ensure their spot in the tournament field. And Marcus Smart coming back, obviously, is huge for Oklahoma State. Need him now at the right time. Obviously, the committee is going to take into account the fact that they were 0-3 without him during that suspension. But and Oregon. Usually teams with losing records in the conferences, they don't tend to make the tournament. But Oregon, you got to remember, Oregon started strong. Oregon's one of those, for a time, that was unbeaten. They were going, through and then all of a sudden just hit the skids when conference play started. So keep that in mind, you know. But certainly they're in the same boat again. They were last year's one of the last 4 teams in, I think. So just keep that in mind. 3-14, this would be another scary one, at least in my opinion. Wisconsin out of the Big Ten. Now, Wisconsin, I will say, has looked very good of late this past month. They've looked very strong. They're starting to look like a strong team again. 22-5 out of the Big Ten. But I haven't gone up against Iona out of the MAC. And Iona has always been known to be a very high-scoring team. And Wisconsin's not known for playing those high-scoring games. They're known to play the defensive style like St. Louis does. So that would be a very scary matchup for Wisconsin if that came to pass. So Wisconsin's just got to get a very good matchup in those first few rounds. Otherwise, they might be in for a potential upset. 7-10, Oklahoma 20-8 out of the Big 12, taking on Xavier out of the Big East. Again, for Xavier tonight, this game I think means more for them than it does for their opponent. Even though both, Xavier's in right now and St. John's, at least in my opinion, is not in. It means a lot for both teams, but I think it means more for Xavier to cement their position at the tournament field. If they lose, certainly they could maybe potentially drop down to last 4 in for me. Because right now they're on my last 4 safe line, but that could certainly change depending on that outcome of tonight's game. And then finally, the 2-15, Duke 22-6 out of the ACC, taking on Vermont 19-9, leading the America East. But again, with the America East, don't fall asleep on Stony Brook, who is only a game out for the America East lead, but Vermont has already handily beat them earlier in the year. So right now it's looking more and more like Vermont is going to be the team to beat out of the America East. But who knows, coming conference tournaments. All right, that's it for this video. That's it for the projection, the bubble looks, and the rant on St. John's, and all that, good stuff, and all that we'll throw in here. And this is only the first video of the day. This is only the first one. There's more to come later on. If you have any thoughts you want to share about my bubble teams, about St. John's, I guess, if you want to talk about them, or any other bubble team. Conference races, conference tournaments coming up. Feel free to leave comments down below, or even on the channel on the discussion page there, and let me know what you think. I'm always open to discussion. I'm always free to do that. Yes, Joe and Artie and I might disagree on a lot of things when it comes to bracketology, but I'm always open for debate and discussion. So let me know, and don't forget to stay tuned later today when I also post the newest video for the Jaguars quarterback quest when we break down 4 more quarterbacks. Thanks, guys. God bless, and see you later today.